People want to listen to me and listen to me good. And who not like when I say I care zero. When me telling us say Andrew Holness irritate my spirit when I think of politics me attack. I never vote with PNP from a born. Me attack as a law-abiding citizen. Me attack as a Jamaican. I'm 150% believes that Andrew Holness are the worst Prime Minister Jamaica has ever seen. This man is on a mission to destroy cultural beliefs over money. Wanna listen to this?
Canadian-funded project promoting LGBTQI agenda targeting Jamaican teens. A Canadian-funded project currently underway to teach children about so-called sexual and reproductive health rights has sparked the concern of Christians locally. Advocacy officer at the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, Philippa Davies, is amongst those who have accused the Jamaican government of exposing the nation's children to perverse ideas in exchange for money from the secular North American country. The Jamaican government had received $1.1 billion in November 2022 to finance 2 projects, one of which is to advance sexual and reproductive health and human rights in Jamaica. A little over half of the funding was allocated to implement the Strengthening Access, Inclusion, and Leadership for Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights in Jamaica, SAIL SRHR project, over a 5-year period from 2022 to 2027. The project is targeted primarily at adolescents.
What do we understand the term sexual and reproductive health and rights to mean? It means abortion. It means advocating and teaching LGBT ideology in schools. It means confusing children as to what their real human identity is. It means saying to children that sexual feelings ranks higher than what biology and anatomy says.
That was Advocacy Officer at the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, Philippa Davies. The High Commission of Canada in Jamaica has made it clear that its team is committed to advancing the rights of the LGBTI community in Jamaica. One of the organizations that is carrying out the project is the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities, CVC, whose executive director, Ivan Cruikshank, is also the chairperson for the board of directors for J-Flag, a homosexual lobby group that advocates for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT people in Jamaica. The CVC was the organization that funded Jamaicans for Justice in efforts to introduce unauthorized sex education material in 6 privately run children's homes in 2014. The content prompted public outcry and condemnation from several groups in the island, as it was deemed to promote the gay agenda and material not fit for children. The scandal resulted in investigations being launched by several state agencies, including the Police High Command, and the resignation of former Executive Director Dr. Carlin Gomes from the Jamaicans for Justice Board. Davies said the ideologies that influences Canadian laws and policies are not hidden.
The people of Jamaica should feel betrayed and angry that their government is forming partnership with a country whose public policies regarding sex and sexuality are clearly diabolical. This government is putting the health and human flourishing of future generations of Jamaican citizens on the auction block in exchange for Canadian dollars. Just look at Canadian law and policy to see where Jamaica is likely to end up if we continue along this path. Nihilism, sexual anarchy, abortion on demand, and euthanasia. This is what? This is about fundamental freedoms being suppressed in order to advance deviance and gender confusion.
Several of the adolescents who benefited from a recent CVC training session gave a verbal commitment to share with their peers the teachings from the project. Davies noted that in Canada, some parents are choosing to send their children to private schools to shield them from the illogical ideologies being promoted in that country to confuse children.
It is unconscionable that these persons insist that their beliefs be tied to aid in other countries. And it is tragic that our government ministers would not inform themselves or blind themselves to what is happening into Canada, and for the love of money want to bring into Jamaican space, Jamaican school, Jamaican communities, this kind of illogical ideology that is wreaking havoc in the Canadian society.
Among those who were present for the announcement of the $1.1 billion funding from Canada was Jamaica's Minister of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sports, Olivia Grange, and then State Minister in that office, Orlando Terrelong. Also present were Gillette Cuthbert-Flynn, who at the time was the State Minister in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and Kesia Carr, Chief Executive Officer of the National Parenting Support Commission, who represented the Ministry of Education and Youth at the launch. Davies stated that the focus on sexual and reproductive health rights is part of efforts to undermine and remove parental rights and make children more accessible to pedophiles.
So if you move parents out of the way, parents who are the filter and the first protectors, if the state is removing parents out of the way, you're making vulnerable children who are still immature in their mental and emotional development and physical development open and accessible to pedophiles. That is state policy in Canada. And Jamaican politicians want to replicate that here. Jamaican parents need to be aware and they need to speak up and to say, not on our watch, not in our country. We will not allow our government, for the love of money, to create this access to our children and make them vulnerable to pedophiles. Are these Jamaican politicians who are supporting the implementation of this program happy to sell out Jamaican children for money?
That was Advocacy Officer at the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, Philippa Davies. See more details in the Freedom Come Reign on this developing story. I am Tamika Price Henry. Keep it locked to TBC.